Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you a very special game today. It is none other than Veeq7 as Protoss going up against Btyb88 as Terran, and we are on Proxima, a map that Veeq himself made, and so he should know very well. This is a live game. I am coming to you live, not really because the video is going up after, but at the very least you know that this game was played in real time, casted in real time, and yeah, any salt that will flow will be glorious. We'll see if we get a series, we'll see if we get only one game. But what we can see is selection. And actually, there's been a good number of improvements now. As a live witness, I don't have to worry about my selection bleeding through onto the players here. And we are, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where things go. So we do have some balance updates that we can discuss as time goes on. We actually see a gateway, or sorry, the absence of a gateway, I should say, but there's a barracks opener. So the barracks is actually one of the only production structures / tech structures that you build in the early game that didn't get a time cost adjustment here. The lattice, the gateway, the automaton register, and the cenotaph all got +5 time cost. The same is actually true for the the Larvos colony, the Hydrock Den, and the Quasrock pool. The Zorka's Shroud got a 10-second time cost increase, but a mineral cost reduction. That probably doesn't allow you to ever build it as your first tech structure, now that I think about it. But that was mostly a meme anyway. And I think I'm going to start adding a little bit more oomph to some of the units there. So I kind of want it to be seen as the tier 1.5 structure. Now, on the side of Terran, the medbay has not actually been... Oh yeah, it's received a +5 time cost, and the scrapyard has received a +10-second time cost nerf, if you want to call it, right? An adjustment. And that's important to know because... well, you'll find out, right? Because the early game will take a little bit longer to get to the point where you have combat-ready armies on both sides, or all sides in a team game. And yeah, so as a result, Terran can get their initial units out. You know, that is not changed in terms of the timing, because it already felt a little bit slow. And I think part of that is probably because you don't actually have a good... read on, like, you need to harvest resources and build stuff with your masons, right? And so you actually get to take an economic hit, a slight one admittedly, every single time you have no, he's not going to escape here. Every single time you build a structure, you take a slight economic hit. And so I think it was fine to leave their time cost as it was, although of course this can be revisited later on. And yeah. As a result, I just decided to add a little bit more power to the tier 1.5 units for Terran, which would be coming from the medbay and from the scrapyard. So Blackjacks attack a bit faster, Matadors and Shamans and Clerics are all a bit more tanky, and as a result of those changes, they should be a little bit harder to put away once you get to that point, or they're a little bit more lethal. What I like about the Blackjacks receiving bonus attack speed is actually that when you consider the fact that the Blackjacks get reduced attack speed as their HP goes down. This is actually a stat, a buff, if you will, that you can attenuate simply by playing and attacking them and trying to focus them down, or at least leave them a little bit wounded. Of course, with the Cleric durability buff, which is actually not insignificant, it's 20 bonus HP, that could very well become quite oppressive when combined with Blackjacks, but I think that the time cost delays on the scrapyard and the medbay should at least allow you to plan for that. And if Clerics end up feeling too powerful with their 80 HP instead of 60, I can always go back and turn them to 100 minerals again instead of 75, which was a change that was done quite a while ago. There are going to be some scouting vassals from Veeq. I haven't really commented too much on the game we have at hand here, but we do have a Lattice first. He will reveal the fact that there is at least one Wraith. I'm not sure if he caught the shimmer of a second, but he's only going to be aware at a minimum, he's aware of one Wraith. And the Anciel also being there is pretty telling, I think. Now, these units have relatively similar movement speeds. The Wraiths move a little bit faster, but it's not that much. Their second Warden over here should mean that he can't get up to too much without massing up a lot more Wraiths. So I think Veeq is mostly insulated, but he's remained mostly on his side of the map. And I know it's his map, so technically all the map's sides are his, but as a result, he's going to be stuck in one corner of the woods. And now a third Wraith on the way. Not really caught over here. I highly doubt Veeq was aware of the shimmer. Eventually, by the way, we are going to look into getting player-colored selection circles so that we can actually see which one of our two players here is actually selecting a unit. And that way, that will allow us to know, like, oh, did he select this unit? You know, did the opponent select this unit or whatever? Now, these vassals, I think, are mostly just doing some scouting, maybe trying to keep a little tiny bit of pressure so that Mr. Ben here, Mr. Taberski, Big Daddy T, is trying to, maybe sit at home a little bit. He does feel a little bit paranoid. He spent a decent amount of early gas on the ant seals. Now he's getting another one. And so with his 3 wraiths, what will he get up to? Now, Veeq has done a devious ploy. Veeq has recently fixed Clarions, and his desire is clear. He actually wants to see what he can do to rush out Strident Stratum. This is actually a little bit awkward for Ben, because he's killed a scribe, but he's lost a wraith, and he's about to lose more, I believe. Ooh, not quite. Okay, they end up cloaking, and I think that last shot, which would have killed the wraith, was absorbed by the ant seal, so lucky positioning there. But he did shut down mining time for a little bit. It wasn't a crazy amount of an investment, and it looks like I think Mr. Ben here knows that he should expand. Now, Veeq obviously already has his natural, and he's starting to get his money out. Now, when the Strident Stratum finishes, which I don't believe was scouted by the wraiths, remember, when they're cloaked, you can just sort of fly them over stuff and see what's going on. You just have to waypoint them so that they don't stop in the middle of the base. Second lattice being added. This is kind of an interesting build order. I really don't know what's up with this one. I think he recognizes, yeah, the Clarion's going to cost some serious gas, so I'm going to go ahead and cap my geysers and see what happens from there. There it is, the Clarion. Okay, we get to see it after all. Now, an ant seal was way pointed over here, and it's just going to fly in. If Ben's not careful, he's just going to let this ant seal fly in and reveal the embassy. Now, you can see what your opponent is building, by the way. So, yeah, I think that was a little bit of an oopsie by him. He's actually going to fly over some more and then just get gatted again, swatted out. A lot of permanent damage to be taken from that ant seal, and 150 energy does take a little bit of time. It takes 15 seconds, in fact, to recharge, so that might delay his offensive. But he's only got some Mavericks here, so it's nothing too crazy. He does have a single Maverick over here, and if he reacts with this ant seal, he can actually defend it from the vassals over here. And yeah, that Mason is going to get attacked. The stim pack will be good to not actually kill a vassal, and of course the ant seal reaction was a bit delayed, and as a result he will have to send another Mason out there to stop it. So I'm definitely favoring Veeq on this one. The Clarion Simulacrum build order and composition was absolutely impeccable before in the past, and we'll see if it can actually work here. I'm not 100% sure it is, because especially with the Clarion moving out like that, and the Clarion itself losing quite a bit of shields at this point, I think he'll have enough to fight back, which is pretty good there. But yeah, it doesn't look like it actually resulted in the crazy amounts of recursive splitting that was desired. These Mavericks couldn't really fight. Maybe they could kill a single sim, but it's probably not worth turning at that point. A Fulcrum has been completed and a Goliath is on the way, so that will be the heavy firepower that's necessary to maybe help burst down those sims, or maybe even specifically target the Clarion, because obviously when the Clarion's shields are down, its passive, I think its passive technically is still active, but it's just a little bit hard to defend it when it only has 50 health, right? So you just hit it with a few salvos. Now, I'm not sure what Veeq wants to do with this Envoy. I think he was testing how many sims he can fit, maybe, or something. I don't know. A second Clarion's already out. That's a very heavy gas investment. English. He will go for the sequestered icon. Very delayed at this point, but it looks like he's showing his hand. He wants them a Cantor drops. Now, Goliaths are historically a very good counter to, back in the default Brood War, you think about Reaver drops and stuff. You put mines where they're going to be. You put Goliaths around in the area to try to snipe the Envoy, or the shuttle, as it were, in that game state. But I don't know that our homie here is going to be prepared for it. He does have this Wraith here, and it will even actually pick off the Scribe. So that's actually delaying an expansion attempt. But I don't know that Ben actually is aware of it. He might respond to it when it gets attacked by some Sims or something. Now there is a Witness out here. So the Witnesses actually receive a slight movement speed upgrade. This is to allow them to keep pace with Ovaleths, so that you can't just hunt them down with those, because they're both sort of meant to be slow detectors. There's been some consternation that maybe the Witness is a little bit too, shall we say, a little bit too slow. Just like Ben was. He was too slow to stop one of those Sims from splitting. Hey! Okay, quick correction there from Veeq. A little bit faster on the ball now. A second bunker going down. Now, admittedly, this will be a tough spot to breach, but that's why there's a sequestered icon with 2 iquares inside of it. Double automaton register. I haven't really commented on the money, but we do have a lot of fucking money for Veeq, and actually for both players. You would imagine that an Atlas is not far away from Ben, but we'll see. He's got a capped geyser in both bases, another one uncapped, and of course a ridge being partially harvested. He's got a decent forest out here. Nothing in that bunker down there. So he'll have to garrison it in a flurry. Yeah, this map has also changed quite a bit since its first incarnation. If you guys remember the larger version of it, it's much more compact now, so we get to partake of that. Now, this Anseal and these two Mavericks are mostly just here to do exactly what they're doing, which is to recognize that, hey, there's... look at all the Anseals. Why are you giving him all of this HP for free? Are you trying to bait him in? Are you trying to say, hey, buddy, you should come over here and smooch me, just so that you can catch some of his sims? Not sure it was cost efficient. The Clarions are nowhere to be found, so this army is just going to go up in smoke. However, oh, I thought that might have been an envoy. No envoy? Where's the envoy at? Oh, here's the envoy. It does have an Acantor in it. Well, Ben will respond a little bit now. Actually, that Goliath could go down if he's not careful with his Anseal placement, but I think he's careful enough. Not a whole lot of micro here at all by either player. A little bit of movement. Single Maverick died, it looked like. I have to give the... Oh, no, the Cyprian does have a custom corpse. I have to give them a better death sound so that they're actually distinct, though. And that will, of course, be Le Victoriousness. Now, the Acantor will unload here, but the... Okay, this might be the worst thing that could have happened, actually, because the Acantor is out, but there's nothing to fight it. And as soon as Veeq realizes that his Acantor is here, I mean, he's definitely struggling at home, but another Acantor is out, so I think this fight is going to go the way of Veeq if he's a little bit careful here. But is he doing anything with this? Okay, there's a little bit of micro happening. Obviously, you got to proc the flash shielding here, buddy. You got to tickle it a little bit. Oh, he's derping. He's dancing. He's trying to dance. Dude, he's not even attacking yet. The bunker is just flying. Okay, it's landed over there. I don't think it has the range to actually kill anything from there. Meanwhile, his army down here has been completely eviscerated. If he will ever look at his Acantor. This is stupid. Okay, the bunker's made a shuffle. And now, indeed, it will actually strike the Acantor, which could just walk out, but isn't going to. And these Anseals will leave. I think there's 3 of them over there. So actually not a terrible situation to scavenge away with all of that. Obviously, you did lose a bunch of Goliaths in that fight, and you don't have a crazy amount of time to reproduce them. But you do have 2,000 minerals, bro. You could do so much with that. And indeed, I'm sat here waiting, wondering what's going to happen. Oh, shit! It was on autopilot. Somebody needs to update the firmware. Now, he might suspect that this is an Atlas if he didn't actually click on it. I didn't see the selection circle, but I could be blind. In fact, I often am, especially when actually playing. This command center was interrupted. I think maybe some vassals came by and killed it or something. That would be my suspicion. This Mason did not pick it up again, though. I think maybe the multitasking is getting out of hand for our friend, Ben. But he is adding fulcrums to try to spend his ludicrous amounts of money. He could, of course, go with some scrapyards. He will cancel the CC to get some more minerals back, because he was obviously very low on that. But no, obviously it's the right play to do. It's just funny when he's got so much money already. And he's going to retreat to his empty bunker. No, he's staffing some Goliaths in it. So these Sims are definitely consigning their fate away. Now, this Anseal will pop, and so will the Cyprian as a result. So they wasn't entirely, without some utility. Now, there was a Grand Library added at some point. 2 of them, in fact. We're still on relatively simple tech here for Veeq, and you can tell that his base layout is a little bit rough, because if he had put the Grand Libraries down here, they would have had a little bit more maneuvering room, but obviously in this current format, I don't know if Atreus can actually escape. If something gets built here and it's an Atreus, it might not be able to move around that. So that's something that I am a little bit watchful of. 4th base going down for Veeq, and he has capped geysers everywhere, so he should have enough money to start breaking out some heavy tier stuff if he doesn't end the game before then. Remember, there's the Atlas is done, but there's no machine shop or anything. Now, there are Sentinels, and so those might be able to be useful, but I feel like they're a little bit too far out to be useful, as a matter of fact. Now, obviously, the Anseals are doing their best to try to help, but it's not doing too hot here. The bunker is already down. The Acantor is not being focused by anything. There's not really much to focus it to begin with. And I think I'm not even sure how much effort the Clarions existed there. I think maybe only one of them survived anyway, unless maybe there was only one that was brought down to begin with. Obviously, the crowd control from the idols will help pick off all the workers. This bunker actually never got repaired, and it was never flown back over here. So this is probably the end of the line here for our homie. Although he does have more units coming out from these 3 fulcrums. He has a covert ops that doesn't have anything in it. Maybe he was fancying a nuke. First Sentinel is bombed down. There's 2 more to go. One of them can be attacked from the Acantors. This CC wasn't lifted at any point, so it will be down back to 1 base for Btyb88, who is currently facing one of the creators of this project, bro. And can you withstand his enormous onslaught of Protoss? GG. He concedes. And you know what? You did try, then. In fact, I think based on the commentary that I've provided you, you probably have a little bit of information that you can use to consider what you can do better next time, right? I think the biggest thing was, spending your money. There's obviously like the funny dance between the Goliath and the Acantor and the mineral line, so there is that as a contributing factor. But I would just think about it like this, man. You're going up against somebody who's like fairly familiar at playing RTS games and whatnot. Veeq is not a slouch, right? He's not an expert player because none of us are, but he's not a slouch. And he was trying a very powerful build for sustained damage with the Clarions. Of course, there's more to it than that. He obviously had the drop to begin with, but honestly, that attack from none other than Ben was fairly good. I think maybe if he had added some clerics, or if he had maybe had a little bit more firepower, maybe he had added production structures earlier before sending off that attack force, or like to reinforce in the middle of that attack force, he probably could have given Veeq a run for his money. But during the fight, he obviously couldn't do much micro on the front lines because he was trying to save his mineral line from an Acantor that somehow, I don't think killed a single Mason, or maybe it killed one Mason the entire time. That is just magical. I don't know how he managed to achieve that. So realistically speaking, up until that point, it was looking pretty good. It's just that during that derp fight between the Goliath and the Acantor, he got up to like 2.5k minerals and couldn't really spend much of it, right? So I definitely think if he kept his money down more, if he had more production structures earlier in the game, or he teched up earlier in the game, or maybe even when he got his Atlas, he instantly added 2 machine shops and pumped out some phalanxes to defend against the impending ground army. I think all of that could have saved him, but alas, it didn't happen. Maybe there will be more coming in the future from Ben, where he returns to the channel, but for now, we know the end to that saga. So, GG.